Thank you for giving us the opportunity. Firstly, I wish to thank His Grace Vrindavan Chandra Prabhu and His Grace Mukund Hari Prabhu for engaging us in this service to you all. Please forgive us if we commit any mistakes or offenses. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Shrinvatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hidayantasto hi abhadrani Vido Noti Suratsatam Nashtaye Prayashvaya Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhagatir Bhavati Naishtiki Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayet Girim Yat Kripatam Aham Vande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Yat Kripatam Aham Vande Paramanandam Madhavam Om Jnana Tirimandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitanscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Shri Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Prananami Hari Priya Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Gurve Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Tadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namah Krishna 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 Rakshamam Krishna 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 Pahimam Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rakshamam Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava Pahima. Shri Shri Radha Govinda Dev Bhagwan ki jai. Granth Raj Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sarva Bhakta Vaishnava ki jai. Hare Krishna devotees. So we'll be reciting the whole of the chapter 3. We'll do the Sanskrit in full first, and then we'll come back and do the English translations thereafter. I humbly request that for the next 15 or 20 minutes, please, if you could all completely switch off everything else material and focus entirely on the words of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is non-different to Krishna himself. Please close your eyes, meditate upon the lotus feet of Govinda, and please listen to the verses, not only with your ears, but with your hearts. I humbly request that everyone please remain on mute throughout, and that administrators please mute anyone that may be joining you that may not be muted. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Sutovacha Jagrihe Paurusham Rupam Bhagavan Mahadadibhihi Sambhutam Shodashakalam Adau Lokasasrikshaya Yasyam Bhasishayanasya Yoga Nitramritanvataha Nabhiratambuja Brahma Vishwasrujampatihi Yasya Vayavasamsthanehi Kalpito Lokavistaraha Tadvai Bhagavato Rupam Vishuddham Sattvamurjitam Pasyantyado Rupamadaprajakshusha Sahasrapadorupujananaputam Sahasramurthashravanakshinasikum Sahasramaulyam Parakundalolasa Etannanaavatarana Nidhanam Bijamavyayam Yasyam Shamsena Srajyante Devatiryannaradayah Saiva Prathamam Deva Kaumaram Sargamashitaha Chachara Dushcharam Brahmacharyam Khanditam Dvitiyam tu bhavayasya rasatalagatam mahi uddharishyam nupadatta yajnesha saukaram vapuhu tritiyam rishi sargam vai devashitvam upetya saha tantram satvatamachashta naishkarmyam karmanam yataha तुर्ये धर्म कला सर्गे नर नारायणा वृषि भूत्वात्मोपशमोपेतम् अकरोत् दुश्चरं तपः पंचम कपिलो नाम सिद्धेश काल विप्लुतम् प्रोवाच सुरये सांख्यं तत्त्वग्राम विनिर्णयम् षष्ठमत्रेरपत्यत्वम् वृतः प्राप्तो न सूयया आन्वीक्षिकी मलर्काय प्रह्लादादिभ्य ऊचिवान् ततः सप्तमाकूत्यां रुचेर्यज्ञोऽभ्यजायत स यामात्यै सुरगणैः अपात्स्वायं भुवान्तरम् अष्टमी मेरुदेव्यां तु नाभिर्जात उरुक्रमः दर्शयन् वत्मधीराणां सर्वाश्रम नमस्कृतम् ऋषिभिर्याचितो भेजे नवमं पार्थिवं वपुः दुग्धे मामोषधीर्विप्राः तेनायं सौषत्तमः रूपं स जगृहे मात्स्यं चाक्षुषो दधि सम्प्लवे नाव्यारोप्य महीमया अपाद्वैव स्वतं मनुं सुरासुराणामुदधिं मत्नतां मन्दराचलं दध्रे कमठरूपेण पृष्ठ एकादशे विभुः धान्वन्तरं द्वादशमं त्रयोदशममेव च अपाययत्सुरानन्या मोहिन्या मोहयन् स्त्रिया चतुर्दशं नारसिंहं बिभ्रतैतेन्द्रमूर्छितं ददार करचैरोरा ईरकां कटकृत्यथा पञ्चदशं वामनकं कृत्वा गादध्वरं बलेः पदत्रयं याचमानः प्रत्यादित्सुस्त्रिपिष्टपम् अवतारे षोडशमे पश्यन् ब्रह्मदुहो नृपा त्रिसप्त कृत्वा कुपितो निक्षत्रामकरोन्महीं ततः सप्तदशे जातः सत्यवत्यां पराशरात् चक्रे वेदतरो शाखा दृष्ट्वा पुंसोऽल्पमेधसः नरदेवत्वमापन्नः सुरकार्यचिकीर्षया समुद्रनिग्रहादीनि चक्रे वीर्याण्यतः परम् एकोनविंशे विंशतिमे वृष्णिषु प्राप्य जन्मनि रामकृष्णाविति भुवो भगवान् हरद्भरम् ततः कलौ सम्प्रवृत्ते सम्मोहाय सुरद्विषा बुद्धो नाम्ना जनसुतः कीकटेषु भविष्यति अथासौ युगसन्ध्यायां दस्युप्रायेषु राजसु जनिता विष्णुयशसो नाम्ना कल्किर्जगत्पतिः अवतारा ह्यसङ्ख्येया हरे सत्त्वनिधे द्विजाः यथा विदासिनः कुल्याः सरसस्युः सहस्रशः ऋषयो मनवो देवा मनुपुत्रा महौजसः कला सर्वे हरेरेव स प्रजापतयः स्मृताः एते चांशकलाः पुंसः कृष्णस्तु भगवान् स्वयम् इन्द्रार्यव्याकुलं लोकं हृदयन्ति युगे युगे जन्मगुह्यं भगवतो य एतत् प्रयतो नरः सायं प्रातर्गृह्णन् भक्त्या दुःखग्रामाद् विमुच्यते एतद् रूपं भगवतो यरूपस्य चिदात्मनः मायागुणैर्विरचितं महदादिभिरात्मनि यथा नभसि मेघौघो रेणुर्वा पार्थिवो निले एवं द्रष्टरिदृश्यत्वम् आरोपितमबुद्धिभिः अतः परं यदव्यक्तम् अव्यूढगुणगृहीतम् अदृष्टा श्रुतवस्तुत्वात् सजीवो यत्पुनर्भवः यत्रेमे सदसद्रूपे प्रतिषिद्धे स्वसंविदा अविद्ययात्मनि कृते इति तद्ब्रह्मदर्शनम् यतीशो परता देवी माया वैशारदीमतिः सम्पन्ने वीति विदुः महिम्नि स्वे महीयते एवं जन्मानि कर्माणि ह्यकर्तुरजनस्य च वर्णयन्ति स्म कवयो वेदगुह्यानि हृत्पतेः स वा इदं विश्वममोघलीलः सृजत्यवत्यत्ति न सज्जतेऽस्मिन् भूतेषु चान्तर्हित आत्मतन्त्रः षड्वर्गिकं जिघ्रति षड्गुणेशः न चास्य कश्चिन्निपुणेन धातुः अवैति जन्तुः कुमनीश ऊतिः नामानि रूपाणि मनोवचोभिः सन्तन्वतो नटचर्यामि वाण्यः स वेदधातुः पदवीं परस्य तुरन्तवीर्यस्य रथाङ्गपाणिः यो मायया सन्ततयानुवृत्त्या भजेत तत्पाद सरोजगन्धम् अथेह धन्या भगवन्त इत्थं यद्वासुदेवेऽखिल लोकनाथे कुर्वन्ति सर्वात्मकमात्मभावं न यत्र भूयः परिवर्त उग्रः इदं भागवतं नाम पुराणं ब्रह्म संहितम् उत्तमश्लोकचरितं चकार भगवान् ऋषिः निःश्रेयसाय लोकस्य धन्यं स्वस्त्ययनं महत् तदिदं ग्राहयामास सुतमात्मवतां वरं सर्ववेदेतिहासानां सारं सारं समुद्धृतं स तु संश्रावयामास महाराजं परीक्षितं प्रायोपविष्टं गङ्गायां परितं परमर्षिभिः कृष्णे स्वधामोपगते धर्मज्ञानाधिपिः सह कलौ नष्टदृशामीश पुराणार्को धुनोदितः तत्र कीर्तयतो विप्रशिर्भूरि तेजसः अहं चाध्यगमं तत्र निविष्टस्तदनुग्रहात् सोऽहं न श्रावयिष्यामि यथाधीतं यथामति इति श्रीमद्भागवते महापुराणे पारमहंस्यां संहितायां प्रथमस्कन्धे तृतीयोऽध्यायः नैमिषोपाख्याननामः श्रीहरे नमः श्रीहरे नमः श्रीहरे नमः गोपिका जीवन स्मरणं गोविन्द गोविन्द
Translations by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Chapter 3, Canto 1, Chapter 3. Krishna is the source of all incarnations. Text 1. Sutta said, in the beginning of creation, the Lord first expanded himself in the universal form of the Purusha incarnation and manifested all the ingredients for the material creation. And thus, at first, there was the creation of the 16 principles of material action. This was the purpose of creating the material universes.
Text 2. A part of the Purusha lies down within the water of the universe. From the navel lake of his body sprouts a lotus stem, and from the lotus flower atop this stem, Brahma, the master of all engineers in the universe, becomes manifest.
Text 3. It is believed that all the universal planetary systems are situated on an extensive body of the Purusha, and he has nothing to do with the created material ingredients. His body is eternally in spiritual existence par excellence.
Text 4. The devotees with their perfect eyes see the transcendental form of the Purusha, who has thousands of legs, thighs, arms, and faces, all extraordinary. In that body there are thousands of heads, ears, eyes, and noses. They are decorated with thousands of helmets and glowing earrings and adorned with garlands.
Text 5. This form, the second manifestation of the Purusha, is the source of the indestructible seed of multifarious incarnations within the universe. From the particles and portions of this form, different living entities like demigods, men, and others are created.
Text 6. First of all, in the beginning of creation, there were the 4 unmarried sons of Brahma, the Kumaras, who, being situated in a vow of celibacy, underwent severe austerities for realization of the absolute truth.
Text 7. The supreme enjoyer of all sacrifices accepted the incarnation of a bull, the second incarnation, and for the welfare of the earth, he lifted the earth from the nether regions of the universe.
Text 8. In the millennium of the Rishis, the personality of Godhead accepted the third empowered incarnation in the form of Devarshi Narad, who is the great sage among the demigods. He collected expositions of the Vedas which deal with devotional service and which inspire non-fruitive action.
Text 9. In the fourth incarnation, the Lord became Nara and Narayana, the twin sons of the wife of King Dharma. Thus, he undertook severe and exemplary penances to control the senses.
Text 10. The fifth incarnation, named Lord Kapila, is foremost among perfected beings. He gave an exposition of the creative elements and metaphysics to Asuri Brahmana, for in course of time this knowledge has been lost.
Text 11. The sixth incarnation of the Purusa was the son of the sage Atri. He was born from the womb of Ansuya and prayed for an incarnation. He spoke on the subject of transcendence to Alarka, Prahlad, and others, Yadu, Hayaya, etc.
Text 12. The seventh incarnation of Yajna, the son of Prajapati Rushi and his wife Akuti. He controlled this period during the change of the Shayambhuva Manu and was assisted by demigods such as his son Yama.
Text 13. The eighth incarnation was King Rishabha, son of King Navi, and his wife Meru Devi. In this incarnation, the Lord showed the path of perfection, which is followed by those who have fully controlled their senses and who are honored by all orders of life.
Text 14. O Brahmanas, in the ninth incarnation, the Lord, prayed for by sages, accepted the body of King Prithu, who cultivated the land to yield various produce, and for that reason the earth was beautiful and attractive.
Text 15. When there was a complete inundation after the period of the Chakshusha Manu, and the whole world was deep within water, the Lord accepted the form of a fish and protected Vivashvasta Manu, keeping him on a boat.
Text 16. The 11th incarnation of the Lord took the form of a tortoise whose shell served as a pivot for the Mandacharala hill, which was being used as a churning rod by the theists and atheists of the universe.
Text 17. In the 12th incarnation, the Lord appeared as Dhanvantari, and in the 13th he allured the atheists by the charming beauty of a woman and gave nectar to the demigods to drink.
Text 18. In the 14th incarnation, the Lord appeared as Nrsimha and bifurcated the strong body of the atheists Hiranyakashipu with his nails, just as a carpenter pierces his cane.
Text 19. In the 15th incarnation, the Lord assumed the form of a dwarf Brahmana, Vamana, and visited the arena of sacrifice arranged by Maharaj Bali. Although at heart he was willing to regain the kingdom of the three planetary systems, he simply asked for a donation of 3 steps of land.
Text 20. In the 16th incarnation of the Godhead, the Lord, as Bhagavati, annihilated the administrative class, Kshatriyas, 21 times, being angry with them because of their rebellion against the Brahmanas, the intelligent class.
Text 21. Thereafter, in the 17th incarnation of Godhead, Sri Vyasadeva appeared in the womb of Satyavati through Parasharamani, and he divided the one Veda into several branches and sub-branches, seeing that the people in general were less intelligent.
Text 22. In the 18th incarnation, the Lord appeared as King Ram in order to perform some pleasing work for the demigods. He exhibited superhuman powers by controlling the Indian Ocean and then killing the atheist King Ravan, who was on the other side of the sea.
Text 23. In the 19th and the 20th incarnations, the Lord advented himself as Lord Balaram and Lord Krishna in the family of Vrishni, the Yadu dynasty, and by doing so, he removed the burden of the world.
Text 24. Then in the beginning of Kali Yuga, the Lord will appear as Lord Buddha, the son of Anjana, in the province of Gaya, just for the purpose of deluding those who are envious of the faithful atheist.
Text 25. Thereafter, at the conjunction of the two yugas, the Lord of the creation will take his birth as the Kalki incarnation and become the son of Vishnu or Yasa. At this time, almost all rulers of the earth will have degenerated into plunderers.
Text 26. O Brahmanas, the incarnations of the Lord are innumerable, like rivulets flowing from inexhaustible sources of water.
Text 27. All the rishis, Manus, demigods, and descendants of Manu, who are especially powerful, are plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord. This also includes the Prajapatis.
Text 28. All of the above-mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord. But Lord Shri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. All of them appear on planets whenever there is a disturbance created by the atheists. The Lord incarnates to protect the theists.
Text 29. Whoever carefully recites the mysterious appearances of the Lord with devotion in the morning and in the evening, gets relief from all miseries of life.
Text 30. The conception of the Virat universal form of the Lord as appearing in the material world is imaginary. It is to enable the less intelligent and neophytes to adjust to the idea of the Lord's having form, but factually the Lord has no material form.
Text 31. Clouds and dust are carried by the air, but less intelligent persons say that the sky is cloudy and that the air is dirty. Similarly, they also implant material bodily conceptions on the spirit self.
Text 32. Beyond this gross conception of form is another, subtle conception of form, which is without formal shape and is unseen, unheard, and unmanifest. The living being has his form beyond this subtlety. Otherwise, he could not have repeated births.
Text 33. Whenever a person experiences by self-realization that both the gross and subtle bodies have nothing to do with the pure self, at that time he sees himself as well as the Lord.
Text 34. If the illusionary energy subsides and the living entity becomes fully enriched with knowledge by the grace of the Lord, then he becomes at once enlightened with self-realization and thus becomes situated in his own glory.
Text 35. Thus, learned men describe the births and activities of the unborn and inactive, which is undiscoverable, even in the Vedic literatures. He is the Lord of the heart.
Text 36. The Lord, whose activities are always spotless, is the master of the six senses and is fully omnipotent with six opulences. He creates the manifested universes, maintains them, and annihilates them without being in the least affected. He is within every living being and is always independent.
Text 37. The foolish, with a poor fund of knowledge, cannot know the transcendental nature of the forms, names, and activities of the Lord, who is playing like an actor in a drama. Nor can they express such things, neither in their speculations nor in their words.
Text 38. Only those who render unreserved, uninterrupted, favorable service onto the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, who carries the wheel of the chariot in his hand, can know the creator of the universe in his full glory, power, and transcendence.
Text 39. Only by making such inquiries in this world can one be successful and perfectly cognizant, for such inquiries invoke transcendental ecstatic love onto the personality of Godhead, who is the proprietor of all the universes and guarantee 100% immunity from the dreadful repetition of birth and death.
Text 40. This Srimad-Bhagavatam is the literary incarnation of God, and it is compiled by Srila Vyasadeva. the incarnation of God. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people, and it is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect.
Text 41. Sri Vyasadeva delivered it to his son, who is the most respected amongst the self-realized, after extracting the cream of all Vedic literatures and histories of the universe.
Text 42. Sukadeva Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva, in his turn delivered the Bhagavatam to the great Emperor Parikshit, who sat surrounded by sages on the bank of the Ganges, awaiting death without taking food or drink.
Text 44. This Bhagavad, 43. Text 43. This Bhagavata Purana is as brilliant as the sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in the age of Kali shall get light from this Purana.
Text 44. O learned Brahmanas, when Sukadeva Goswami recited Bhagavatam there in the presence of Emperor Parikshit, I heard him with rapt attention, and thus by his mercy I learned the Bhagavatam from that great and powerful sage. Now I shall try to make you hear the very same thing as I learned it from him and as I realized it.
Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the first canto, third chapter of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled Krishna is the source of all incarnations. Govinda, Govinda, Govinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna.
So, Bhakti Vaishnava Bhikare, please forgive us if we made any mistakes during this recitation. Hare Krishna devotees.
Hare Krishna, dear Shailesh, Prabhu, and Mataji. Such a transcendental atmosphere was created by the recitation of beautiful, melodious singing of Srimad-Bhagavatam. We sometimes struggle to pronounce the words, but here we're hearing the melodious recitation of Srimad-Bhagavatam. And after that, there was a continuous flow of nectar to the verses of Srimad-Bhagavatam. So we are very indebted to the family. Thank you so much for your efforts and bringing so much of pleasure to all the devotees. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So,
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, I've made you the host now.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I have to go now, and I'm leaving my laptop on and recording on. When the session ends, you will have to end the meeting as well, please.
Sure.
There's something emergency and I have to go, but the recording is on.
Okay, Mataji. Hope everything is
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, chapter 1, 2, and 3 of Srimad-Bhagavatam are really the foundation of the entire Srimad-Bhagavatam. They kind of set the scene. They put the entire Quran into context. There's a lot of philosophical concepts which otherwise wouldn't be understood. So this particular chapter really, initially, it kind of answered some of the questions that were being asked in chapter 1. That when the sages of Naimisharanya asked about Krishna's appearances, and he also asked about avatars, the leelas of Krishna. Some of those appearances of Krishna are touched in chapter 2 and quite a lot in chapter 3. And we see how the avatars comes as Purusha avatars and Leela avatars. We just have a look at that. And then there was a question about who shall we take the shelter in the absence in the Kali Yuga. And that answer comes that Srimad-Bhagavatam is the place where one can take shelter. So So in some sense, this chapter, third, 1, 2, and 3, as I said, are very, very critical chapters, and kind of lays the foundation for entire Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, one of the words in this chapter, which is Etaha Chamsa Kalapumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, is a critical, is a very, very important verse for the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. What to talk about just this particular chapter. Eta Jamsa Kalatum Kal Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Just locating the verse. Yeah. So this is called as Paribhasha Sutra. Paribhasha Sutra. This is verse number 28 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Is the Paribhasha Sutra. The way Paribhasha Sutra is described, Paribhasha Sutra is described that it becomes a lens through which you will see the entire scenario. Paribhasha Sutra means, in Sanskrit, a lot of these verses, they are quite confidential, and various people can derive various meanings from the Sanskrit verses, and therefore you can see somebody is interpreting in a certain way and some other people are interpreting in a different way. But Paribhasha Sutra is that particular verse or a theme or a summary which gives definition to all other verses. Now this verse, which is text 28, Eta Chamsa Kalapumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Mrityanti Yuge Yuge. If the, let's say, impersonalists want to interpret entire Srimad Bhagavatam in a manner where they defy the existence of the form of God, but they cannot defy this verse because this verse is direct. It is describing Krishna's existence, all the incarnations coming from Krishna, all the Eta Chumsa Kalapumsa, all further expansions and preliminary portions and the portions of the plenary portions, everything is coming from Krishna, and Krishna too, but you. There's nobody who is God. Krishna's too Bhagavan Swayam. This chapter and this particular verse is establishing Krishna in different category from all other incarnations, is establishing that Krishna is himself the personality of Godhead, Swayam Bhagavan, in person. There's nobody else who is the Lord. So this particular verse is used by Srila Jiva Goswami in his Satsandarbh to really mold where other people could interpret some other verses in different ways. But through this particular verse, when you see, then everything will start making sense. Everything kind of falls into place as by this verse. Eta Chamsa Kalapumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. So nobody can defeat this Paribhasha Sutra now because it gives the definitions. That's one of the major contribution of this chapter. Apart from this, we do understand that there's a discussion on another fundamental concept. If you look at chapter 1, if you look at chapter 2, verse number 11, there is a description about Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavaniti Shabdyate. Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattam yajya dhyanam advayam Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavaniti Shabdyate. God can be realized as a Brahmeti, as a Brahman, as Paramatmeti, and as Bhagavan. Now we see in this particular chapter, there are a series of verses which gradually takes one from seeing the spirit in matter to seeing the Lord. And how that is described? That is described as a progression. And initially it is said that there's a Virat Roop, there's a conception of Virat Roop. What is this Virat Roop? It's like imagining that the Lord's foot is the lower planetary system, and in the middle planetary system is his waist, and so on, going further. Upper planetary system is face. His waist, and upper planetary system is face. Now, it is described those who cannot believe that God has a form and cannot see the form of the Lord because they are not qualified to see. They can see God in matter, in the form of Virat Rupa. If once the conception of Virat Rupa establishes in his consciousness, he can come to an understanding, right, there could be a form of the Lord. But it is completely imaginary, this Virat Rupa. It is only for those, the word used is those who are unable to conceive the form of the Lord, which is spiritual, which is Satchidanand. They can look this Virat Rupa as the form which is in the matter. Gradually, you see, seeing spirit in matter. Then it takes us seeing everywhere, seeing in everything as a spirit. So that verse is there, 1332 says, beyond this gross conception of form, there's another subtle conception of form, you see. The subtle conception of form is not something that can be seen. It says, which is without formal shape and unseen, unheard, unmanifest. What kind of form? The material form. Living being has his form beyond his totality, otherwise he could not have repeated birth. So it talks about a spirit here. There is a spirit soul which is beyond the matter and which is beyond the mind and intelligence. There's a gross body of the universe and there's a subtle body of the universe. And the spirit of that universe is God himself. That is very clearly explained in the Purusha avatars. I will revisit that. And then it talks about there's an external energy of the Lord. And one who could pass through this external energy of the Lord through love and devotion, they can perhaps cross the ocean of this birth and death. Then there's a conception of Paramatma and Bhagavan. Thus, learned men describe the birth and activities of the unborn and inactive, which is undescribable, and even in the Vedic literatures. So even in the Vedic literatures, you will not find enough evidences of how Lord takes birth and how he disappears. He's the Lord of the heart. It says he's the Lord of the heart, means he's the Lord who is residing in the heart of the people. And we know that four-armed Vishnu form is Paramatma, Chirodachaya Vishnu, expanding in the heart of every living entity. And that is being referred to here in the verses from text 35 to 39. The Lord, whose activities are always spotless, who's the master of six senses, is fully omnipotent with six opulences. He creates the universe, maintains, and annihilates them without being least affected. He is within every living being, is always independent. You see, he is there in every living being. So Krishna is saying in Gita also that I'm invested, I'm in the heart of every living being. Also, Krishna is saying in Srimad-Bhagavad Gita about his appearances and disappearances. He's saying, Janma karma chame divyam yo vevatti tattaha tattvadeham punarjanma na eti mameti. So Arjuna, one who knows the confidential pastimes of my birth and disappearance, will never take birth again. He will be able to cross the ocean of this birth and death. So it also says those who are foolish with poor fund of knowledge cannot know the transcendental nature of the form, name, and activities of the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita, he says that. But in Srimad-Bhagavatam, it is said that one can do that if one approaches the Lord with devotion. Then one can reach out to the Lord's understanding. Only by making such inquiries, one can be successful and perfectly cognizant, because these inquiries invoke transcendental ecstatic love unto the personality of Godhead. So in the very beginning of this chapter, so I'll just go to the very first part of the chapter, where it was discussed. Sorry, I'm referring some books here. It was in the very beginning of the chapter, we discussed various Purusha avatars. Now we are trying, later on it describes how there's a conception of see matter in this spirit in the matter, or the Lord in the matter, through the universal form. Then you come to the stage of realizing that Lord is existing in everybody's heart, Paramatma feature, and then you realize there is Swam Bhagavan, or the personal feature of the Lord, and that it also describes various incarnations of Vishnu, which is Karanadakshay Vishnu and Garbhodakshay Vishnu and Chinchirodakshay Vishnu. How Garbhodakshay Vishnu is the source of all incarnations. And then when it tells about how Garbhodakshay Vishnu is source of all incarnation, there are almost 25 incarnations described from chapter, from verse number 27 to 22, going from 4 Kumaras to Naraji and Narayan, up to the bishops, Prithvi, Matasya, Kurma, Dhanvantri, and the ones which we have always heard about, Nrsimha, Vamana, all of this, and Lord Ram, Buddha, they are being described in this chapter very, very nicely. One can learn about, and in summary, about all these beautiful incarnations of the Lord. Now, going towards, then the Paribhasha Sutra is presented that, okay, all these incarnations are there, but all the incarnations are coming from Lord Krishna himself. Now, if you go towards the end of the chapter, it says, it talks about the glories of Srimad-Bhagavatam. There's a question where the religion has taken shelter. And that's where it comes from, text 40 to 44. Sukdev Sud Goswami is now describing about the glories of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Let me just simply quickly see these verses. I'll share the screen as well. Let me see if I can do that. Yeah. So this is verse number 40, which says that Idam Bhagavatam Nama Purana Brahma Sammitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishresha Lokasya Dhanyam Swasti Ayanam Mahat. This Srimad Bhagavatam is the literary incarnation of God, first establishing the God himself, and then establishing his incarnations, then establishing his literary incarnation. It is compiled by Srila Vyasadeva. Now, Srila Vyasadeva is also established in this verse as incarnation, Bhagavan Rishi. Uttama Shloka Charitam. Krishna is described as Uttama Shloka Charitam. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. And it is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. This is what this verse actually establishes Srimad Bhagavatam as a spotless, sound representation, incarnation of Lord Krishna. One who takes shelter of this incarnation, there is also written Falashruti. If one takes shelter of this incarnation, then they will get rid of all the miseries of their life, which is called Falashruti. I'm trying to locate Falashruti verse. It is such a beautiful verse, which is actually giving us an indication, a motivation. It says, Janma Gunyam Bhagavato ye etat preto naraha sayam pratar grana bhaktiya dukkha gramad vimuchyate. It will get rid of all the miseries, get relief. Simply by reciting transcendental birth and activity of Lord with devotion, one gets relief from all miseries. So, but this is described in Bhagavatam. Therefore, reading Bhagavatam actually will take away all the miseries whatsoever it is. Any kind of misery. Srila Prabhupada said, you center your life around Srimad Bhagavatam. If you center your life around Srimad Bhagavatam, everything else will come around it. Everything else, whatever we can think of, whether it's the mortgages, it's the jobs, uncertainty of the world, the precarious situation that we're living in, anything and everything that we are worried about in this material world, if we take shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam, everything else will come around it. And obviously, then this particular verse establishes This Bhagavatam Puran is as brilliant as sun, which has risen just after departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in the age of Kali shall get light from this Puran. So it establishes that if we take shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam, then we shall be enlightened. We shall be enlightened to understand the entire nature of the world, nature of the God, our own nature, and how do we live in this world, so that we can obtain to our constitutional position. In the last verse, which is 44 verse, Srila Sukadeva Goswami is saying that he has heard this. Sud Goswami is saying that he has heard this Bhagavatam from Srila Sukadeva Goswami. And what did he say? He says, I heard him with rapt attention. And thus by his mercy, I learned Bhagavatam from the great and powerful sage. Now I shall try to make you hear the same thing. You see, he is establishing here that how one has to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. One has to hear Srimad Bhagavatam with rapt attention. And one can see directly Krishna through hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. If one has heard from the self-realized persons, like Sukadeva Goswami in this case, one would see Krishna directly. No one can learn Srimad Bhagavatam through the speculation method. Neither they can learn Srimad Bhagavatam from persons who are engaged in materialistic life, including sex life. It is not possible. That is the secret of Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is what is explained in this particular chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. One can see directly Krishna through the pages of Bhagavatam if one hears from self-realized soul, and one would get mercy of Krishna when one engages oneself in the devotional activity just to please the Lord, to please the devotees. So that's a very, very powerful message of Abhideya, Sambandh Abhideya Prayojan. The goal is to achieve Krishna, to become situated in the constitutional position with Krishna. And Abhideya, the process is that we hear Srimad Bhagavatam, and Srimad Bhagavatam is talking about Navada Bhakti, where Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, you do chanting, you engage your senses. So there's a whole process that is described. To adopt that process through Srimad Bhagavatam and Sambandha, that will establish a relationship with Krishna. So all the Sambandh Abhideya Prayojan will be established. We'll understand a very, very clear picture of who is God, in whatever form and ways he can be realized. Brahmeti, Bhagwaniti, Shabdyate, Paramatma, Bhagwaniti, Shabdyate. We'll also realize that how Krishna is the fountainhead of all the incarnations. And we will realize how these Purusha avatars are coming from the main source fountainhead, and how the other avatars are coming, including all the Manus and Prajapatis and Shakti Avesha avatars. Everybody is coming from the force of one person, which is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So with that, I close the summary of this chapter. Chapter is really big and amazing. The time that we had today to summarize, of course, is a summary meant to be a summary. So we can't get into the depth of everything, but this is the kind of complete view of this chapter. If there are any questions and comments, please feel free to share it now. I just want to again thank you for a very, very beautiful recitation of all the verses to the devotees. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I have a very humble question. Might not be exactly related to this thing, but in our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, there are two kinds of paramparas as far as I have understood. One is Guru Shishya Parampara and another is Rajarishi Parampara. And when Sri Krishna taught Arjuna, he instated the Rajarishi Parampara again because it was seemed to be lost. Am I right, Prabhu?
Carry on, Madhuri. What is
After that, why did Parikshit Maharaj did not know anything until it came to the end? That is a bugging question for me. Did Arjuna did not teach him anything, or did he not have any other rishi who taught him before?
Okay. So the question, as I understand, is that why Parikshit Maharaj has to take the lessons from Sukadeva Goswami, and why did he not take it from his own parampara?
And no, Prabhu, I wanted to know why did he not know anything before that? Because he was ruling the country with Rajarishi Parampara from Arjuna's son's son.
But where does it describe that he did not know anything before hearing from Sukadeva Goswami?
Sorry, I cannot hear very well.
Where is it described that Parikshit Maharaj was not knowing anything before meeting Sukadeva Goswami? As far as we know,
Yes, Prabhu.
when Sukadeva Goswami, when Parikshit Maharaj was taking birth, prior to that, he was a self-realized person because he had seen Lord Krishna in the womb itself. The one who is taking darshan of Bhagavan, he gets all the knowledge in the heart. The whole pastime of Parikshit Maharaj is teaching the conditioned souls to come in the future for the millenniums and ages, and how one should pass their life if they have to be self-realized. And that 7-day short time was there. In that 7 days, he heard Srimad-Bhagavatam. So this pastime is enacted to manifest, to manifest Srimad-Bhagavatam to the world. So Parikshit Maharaj has taken birth in a very, very solid parampara, in the sense of what you mentioned. He is son of Arjun, and Arjun is nobody but the friend of Krishna and the Shishya of Krishna, so to say, disciple. And he had all the knowledge from his parampara. Therefore, he decided to take shelter of the sage. Otherwise, if he did not have this knowledge that one should go and serve the self-realized soul and hear from them, why would he take this bold step of leaving everything, the kingdom behind, taking the curse upon him? He had the power. He had the power to reverse the curse. He had the power to refute the curse. And he also had the power to annihilate those Brahmanas. Still, he took the curse upon him. That tells us that he took the curse upon him in the favor of his spiritual life. He knew this is going to happen and this is the chance I will get before he is bitten by Takshak Nag. So these are the evidences, from very brief touching upon those points, that Parikshit Maharaj was certainly a self-realized soul. All he needed was to hear more, because when you want to hear, when you hear about the Lord's divine activity, you want to hear more. You're never satisfied. You want to hear more. It becomes sweetened and sweetened and sweetened. So this pastime of Parikshit Maharaj primarily is for the world, and it is mercy of Srila Parikshit Maharaj that today we are able to hear these beautiful divine words of Sukadeva Goswami repeated. And that is exactly what has happened in the last verse of this chapter, where Sukadeva Goswami, Sud Goswami is saying, I heard from Sukadeva Goswami, who heard from Vyasadeva, who heard from, like that, Naradji, who heard from Krishna, Brahmaji, and like that, it establishes our parampara even more solid. I hope I have done some justice to your question, Geeta Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. You have made me understand. Thank you so much for my silly question. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
No, it is such an introspective question. Thank you. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Julie Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, just a compliment. I now know where you got your name from when you mentioned the Manu.
When I was initiated,
Yeah.
it was 2005. And I was thinking, my previous name started with M. So I was thinking that I will be giving some Manohar Krishna, some Madhusudana. There's so many beautiful names of Krishna with M. And when His Holiness Bhakti Charan Maharaj gave me this name, he said, your name is Manu. Exactly like you. I just didn't know who is Manu. And I asked Maharaj this question. And like Mataji was feeling a bit, she was feeling inside that, is she asking the question, right question, you know. I was feeling that, but I put my heart in front. Unless we do that, how do you find out? I said,
Exactly.
Maharaj, what is Manu? I wasn't very happy at that moment that my name is not Manohar or Madhusudan or something else. But then Maharaj explained, he's a Prajapati and he has written Manu Samhita, the law book of the universe. And he said to me, you must study, follow it, and make sure the others follow it. I just couldn't understand that much that time, but later on when I started studying Srimad-Bhagavatam, I understand. These are all powerful incarnations, Shakti Avesh Avatar, so to say, etc., of the Lord, and we are their servants. So, yeah, Manu. There are many Manus, Mataji, in the entire universe. 72 manvantras are there. So for every manvantra, there's Manu who rules that particular manvantra period of time. We know only few names right now.
A true blessing, Prabhuji. You're following all the Shastras very well. So we know you're following the Parampara lineage.
There are plenty of the devotees here who are also following. I seek all your blessings. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Hare Krishna. You're living up to your name. That's what I meant. Haribol. Thank you so much, Haribol. Always a joy to listen to you. And the couple who recited and sung so beautifully. What an evening. Thank you for allowing it. It's wonderful.
There's a hand up here.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yes, it's my hand. Quick one, Prabhuji. I think what you should do is just spend 2 to 5 minutes, because not all devotees necessarily may know or understand what Sambandha, Abhidaya, and Prayojana is, i.e. the relationship, the process, and the goal. Concept. It's important concepts you brought up, but I think you probably should spend a few minutes just to describe what that actually means to devotees, so that people are aware of it.
I'll just
We can't hear you, bro.
Oh. I'll just give a very quick introduction. Sambandha Abhidaya Prayojan. This is introduced by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And all our entire philosophy is packed into these 3 aspects of spiritual life. Sambandh is our relationship with the God. And to understand what is the Sambandh with the Lord, because once we have forgotten that relationship with the Lord, that's the reason we are away from the Lord and suffering the reactions of our own karma in the form of the body. Therefore, to understand that Sambandh, that relationship, is called Sambandha Gyan. We have to dive into the spiritual knowledge. Otherwise, we not understand our constitutional position, to be honest. That is the exact word Srila Prabhupada has used, constitutional position. That is Sambandha. That living being is the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. Jivere Saripoe Krishna Nityadas or Nitya Krishna. Now, once you understand this is my relationship with the Lord, then how do I now awaken this dormant relationship with the Lord? This relationship is dormant It's not something to gain. It's Prabhupada mentioned when he came to New York that I'm not giving you something new. It's already there in your hearts. You have to just revive it. He used the word dormant. And then how do you revive it? Be there through the process of devotional service. The process of devotional service, when we offer this devotional service to the Lord and the devotees selflessly, understanding Sambandha, it's important. Understanding Sambandha, then when we go through the process, which is called Anartha Nivritti, and it takes up to the stage of Nishtha, where you get rid of all the dirty things in the heart, Cheto Darpan Marjana will happen. You will get rid of Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Madha, Moha, Matsarya, so many varieties of sins sitting in the heart, biggest enemy being the sin, the lust, etc. They'll all go away through the process of devotion, the sublime process of devotional service. This is all called Abhideya. Sambandh, Abhideya is the process. Many paramparas or many spiritualists, they know Sambandh, they may also know Prayojan, but they sometimes miss out on the process, and they might take a very long and lengthy process. In Kali Yuga, this chanting of the holy names, Kalau Nastev, 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 Gatir Anvita is a very, very strong and powerful Abhideya. Now, get to the Prayojan. Prayojan means the goal. Goal. What is the goal of life? The goal of life is that we achieve that dormant relationship that we have forgotten, that sambandha with the Lord, and that is prema pumartha. We get to the position of loving God. Instead of loving anything and everything else, we get to the position of loving the very source of our happiness, the very source of our existence, which is God in Himself, and that love is manifested through various service by engaging our senses, which we're doing in the process here, but ultimately we reach that goal where we get to where Krishna, we can just love Krishna and express that love and get fully satisfied. So this is in very, very short time, very, very quick, very brief, 4 or 5 minutes of introduction of what is Sambandha, what is Abhideya, and what is Prayojan that we are chasing. We are not chasing relief from the repetitive death, birth, old age, disease. That's just a byproduct. That will happen. What we are chasing love for Krishna. We're chasing prema. We are chasing that loving service, devotional service to Krishna. And that is our goal. And then when we achieve that goal, everything else will go away, as it was said in Srimad-Bhagavatam also, through the process, knowing Krishna. And that is Sambandha Abhideya and Gyan. Is that okay, Shailesh Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu, thank you. It's an important concept that many devotees may not necessarily be aware of. And as you mentioned it, I thought it's worth you spending a few minutes just giving a little bit of. It takes a whole class on its own, I know, to understand.
It's a very
thank you for doing that.
Yeah, it's a topic itself, but this is a very brief introduction. Whatever limited knowledge I've taken from Srila Prabhupada's books.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for a very nice class.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the lovely class. There is a question in the chat box. Are you able to take some questions, please?
Sure, of course.
From Shubhada Mataji, Hare Krishna Prabhu, can you please speak about tomorrow's Nirjala Ekadashi and its importance briefly? And then another question from Sunita Mataji, very informative, important information about three terms. Thank you for the explanation. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. So Nirjala Ekadashi is tomorrow, a very, very auspicious day. Bhima Nirjala Ekadashi. Because time is less, I'll touch very quick few points that will motivate us to go through the austerity of Nirjala Ekadashi. Nirjal means no jal, no water. That one day, devotees of Krishna, they not only abstain from grains, they not only abstain from fruits and juices, they also try to abstain from water. This special Ekadashi was kept for Bhima. Bhima was Rikodara. He has a udar or a fire, digestive fire, which will not be satisfied by anything. He would have to eat so much food. So when Lord Krishna explained the concept of abstaining from grains on the days of Ekadashi, Bhima said, I can't do all this Ekadashi because of the kind of fire I have. Jathar Agni is called Jathar Agni in the belly, because he's a very powerful being. So being Vayuputra. So Lord Krishna said, okay, for you, I'll give you a special concession. You can keep fasting, but complete fasting, not even water, just one day in a year. And on this Bhima Nirjala Ekadashi, therefore it's also called Bhima Nirjala Ekadashi. You can keep the fasting, and that way you can completely gain the benefit of all the Ekadashis in the entire year. So those who are not able to keep Ekadashis or have by mistake broken some Ekadashi, if they follow complete Nirjala Ekadashi, will get the benefit of all the Ekadashis straight away as it was given to Bhima. So that is something why I don't want to explain now what is Ekadashi and how Ekadashi has come about, who is Ekadashi, she's a personality, and what are the blessings that you get by doing Ekadashis. I'm just explaining and focusing on Bhima Nirjala Ekadashi. The way we do this Ekadashi is that prior to Ekadashi, which is today now, if we stop eating grains, then it becomes very easy to keep the Ekadashi. If we stop eating grains from, let's say, 3-4 p.m. onwards, and if we have some hunger, we can satisfy hunger with the help of fruit juice, liquid diets, or some little digestive fruits. So tomorrow, and when we get up in the morning, much prior, let's say 12, maybe 2, 3 o'clock, whatever time, you can have some water in the body at that time, drink some water. In the morning, when you get up, after clearing up, we don't eat anything, we don't drink anything. Now, because there is no grains in the body, which will demand a lot of water for digestion, it becomes easier to continue with the fasting. All day, we can, if we are on the work, that's a different engagement. But if we have time, if we can chant multiple rounds, then it becomes very, very easy. For example, tomorrow from evening 6:30 p.m. till around 10:30, 11 p.m., we will be just chanting in congregation. Then the Ekadashi will become very, very auspicious and easier. And then because of you haven't eaten grains prior, it becomes really easy for the body to go through this austerity, not giving a lot of, we are conditioned to certain situations, and it becomes very easy. The next day, when the Paran time comes, you don't take grains directly, you take a little bit of lukewarm water with some lemon, and then you break your fast slightly after with some little fruits. And then that way, if you do, let's say you take grains again around lunchtime with something which is more digestive, then the whole Ekadashi becomes very, very easy to perform, and we can engage our mind and senses into the service of the Lord. This is how I would explain right now. There's more to it, but it's already 9 o'clock.
Could you just clarify, the gold standard for Vaishnava is actually the Ekadashi starts from sunset the day before.
Yeah.
So actually, if you're doing a strict Nirjala, you shouldn't be having water in the morning.
So I saw there's a seminar and video on the YouTube I can forward from the devotees, brahmacharis from Chopati temple, which explains how you can keep this Nirjala Ekadashi. I'll have to, Prabhu, check whether we can take water or not after sunset. If you have that information, I take it.
Yeah. The gold standard is that from sunset, your Ekadashi starts. So whatever the Ekadashi Vrat you've taken, if it's a Nirjala Ekadashi Vrat, then from sunset, that Vrat starts, and it breaks only at Paran the day after.
So maybe I'll check.
That's the gold standard. Of course, there are many different grades of levels below, but that's the Shastric standard, is that the Ekadashi vrat starts from the sunset, and you observe whatever your vrat is. So if it's a Nirjal Ekadashi, then you observe Nirjal from sunset until the apparent time the day after.
Could be, yes. We have been understanding that from Brahma Muhurat onwards, it starts. So there is some understanding that I'll catch up with that, Prabhu. This is what we have understood, but if you're saying that must be, I'll check. So with this, we shall end today's session. Very, very wonderful. Salesh Prabhu, again, thank you to you and Mataji for wonderful recitation. Thank you to all the devotees for coming together and hearing these wonderful glories. And we shall meet soon again, and happy Bhima Nirjala Ekadashi to everybody. If you want to follow gold standard, please follow Shailesh Prabhu's advice and carry on with the powerful vrata of Bhima Nirjala Ekadashi. Thank you, Shailesh Prabhu, for sharing that. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna, Hare Bol. Thank you, everybody.
Hare
Hare Bol.
Wonderful class. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Wonderful class, Prabhuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Patitanam Brahmavibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.